Okay, hey, welcome back to this week's Weekly Word with Michael Rasa. We have an unbelievably special guest here. I'm standing with the incomparable Mr. Tony Dungy, Coach Tony Dungy. I don't even need to give you an introduction to this unbelievably humble man who so many coaches, athletes, and other leaders around the world look up to. And so first of all, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about faith and why it's important that for us as leaders and as fathers and as husbands, why do you feel it's important that we put faith at the forefront of pretty much everything?
Well, I think for me, it kind of started with my mother telling me that when I was a young kid, that no matter what you do in life, the final analysis is going to be your relationship with the Lord. Her favorite verse in the Bible was Matthew 16:26. What would it profit a man if you gain the whole world but forfeit your soul? And for me, being 31 years in the National Football League, I saw that happen to a lot of guys, that they got everything that you would think you would want from the world: adulation, money, fame, notoriety, but it ended up being meaningless at the end because their life was a wreck. And that can happen to anybody in any profession, any walk of life, if you don't put the Lord first.
I totally believe that, and I so much appreciate you sharing that. So how do you go about infiltrating the Lord into your sphere of influence, your family?
For me, it just became natural. I grew up in a home where my parents talked about the Lord a lot. My grandfather was a minister. I understood that from the time I was a little boy. But like so many boys, when I got to middle school, when I got to high school, I became focused on athletics. My parents were teachers, so I had to get good grades, but that's what my life became. Play ball, go to school, do a good job, work on that. And that's what I did from the time I was about 12 until I was 21. But then when I was 21, I went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I ran into a group of guys who I hadn't been around before, Christian athletes who were very, very good at the top of their profession in the mid-70s, the Steel Curtain. But these guys were dynamic Christian guys, and they impressed on me that you do all that on the field and your life's a wreck, you got problems. You've got to zero in on serving God. And when I saw them do that in their profession, that told me for the first time in my life, this Christianity is something you have to do all the time. It's not just Sunday morning, it's not just for an hour, it's who you are. And so at 21 years old, it became who I am.
Wow. So it totally changed the trajectory
my life.
of the thought process of how I go about everything in life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome, because we attempt to communicate that within our own sphere of influence, in our own organization, and it's so empowering to know that you don't have to be someone different when you're at home, or when you're on the weekend, or when you're at the office during work days. And it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. I think that's the message that came through to me when I saw these guys. They did it on the football field, at practice, in the meeting rooms, at home with their families. That's who they were. And all of a sudden it became real to me that if I really am a Christian, if I say I'm going to honor the Lord, then that's who I've got to be all the time. And it doesn't matter where I am. And that became my mentality. And so I'm really thankful that that's where the Lord took me. I was able to learn that, and for the last probably 30 years of my life, I've lived it that way.
So today I've had the blessing and the privilege to hang out with you a little bit throughout the day, and I was really enamored, and so I found myself really grateful to be able to watch you speak into other coaches and speak into other leaders around the community here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, for example. Tell us a little bit about your passion for other coaches.
I think coaches are a special group because you have so much influence, and especially in this day and age where our family structure is not like it was when I was growing up, and not for everybody anyway. My parents were always around. I looked up to my parents. I had great support from parents, aunts, uncles, extended family, neighborhood. You couldn't have a better background. But I still got so much from my coaches. Well, now these coaches are dealing with kids who may not live with their mom. They may not live with their dad. They are kind of on their own, and that coach spends so much time with them. They reverence their coach, and what he says, they process. What she says, they process. So I just look at coaches now, and they have an influence because these athletes are the leaders. And so they have a chance to impact the leaders who then are impacting everyone else.
So how do we transition that thought process of a coach to an actual leader? Just like a team leader or a manager, a leader of a department, a leader of people?
What Coach Knoll told me when I started working for him as a young assistant coach, he said, your job is to help your players be the best they can be. And to him, that meant more than just being a good player. You had to zero in on that player, find out what was going on inside him, what made him tick, and help him be a good player and a good man. And if you could do that, then you're a successful coach. If I'm only coaching you as an athlete and I only make you a better shooter or a better dribbler or a better blocker, and that's all I'm concerned about, I've really wasted an opportunity. I've missed the mark.
Yeah.
But if I can help you develop as a person, that's going to benefit us way down the line. And that's what I try to get across to coaches. Yes, you want to coach your players. You want them to be the best athlete they can be. But you got a responsibility to help that young person grow as an individual. And if you have the Spirit of the Lord inside you, then you've got a responsibility to help bring that out of them too. Not just say, hey, I don't care about you as a person. I just want you to be a good player. That's not where it's at.
I asked this question when I was interviewing Tony Romo. What do you say to people who may think that they have to clean themselves up, they have to get their act together, they don't really need God because they think they believe they might have it all together? How do you handle folks like that?
If you think that you've got it all together, you're going to be in for a shock. Because none of us have it all together. And the other side of the coin is if you think that you're not good enough to come to the Lord, that you need to do something to get better before you can come to the Lord, that's wrong too. God is going to take us wherever we are. If we turn ourselves over to Him, He's going to use it. But if you think you've got it all together and you don't need the Lord, that's bad. But if you think you can't get to the Lord because you've done too much wrong and you could never live up to what He wants, that's just as bad, because that's not true either.
Great advice. So tell us one of your favorite football stories. Pick one. You pick one. Put you on the spot here.
Gosh, I had a lot of great experiences in football. I would have to say my favorite story, though, is getting ready for Super Bowl 13. I'm a second-year player with the Steelers. We're going to play the Dallas Cowboys, and the winner is probably going to be declared the team of the 70s. Dallas has won the Super Bowl. We won a couple. We're battling back and forth, and I'm in the chapel service about 5 hours before the game, and the chaplain says, this is a big game. And there's a lot riding on it. Whoever wins is going to get your name on the trophy. You're going to be called the best team in football, maybe the best dynasty that there's ever been. You think there's a lot riding on this, but let me tell you, this game is not that significant. If you go out there and you are just so focused on this game that you're willing to give everything away and waste your life because you want to win a Super Bowl championship, you're going to be disappointed. And that was the same message that my mom used to give. And he talked about Jesus dying on the cross and us having to decide what we wanted to do with our lives. And we better make that the important thing and not the game. And I remember going out there and playing that game, and we won, and we got back in the locker room. And in our locker room, they're interviewing us and saying, gosh, now you've won 3. Do you think you can win another one next year? And we haven't even been in the locker room 15 minutes, and they're ready to talk about next year. And then in the other locker room, the Cowboys had a tremendous team and a tremendous season, but they're asking them, is this season a failure because you lost the game? And it just hit me right then. Boy, you chase what the world thinks is important. If you don't get there, they say you're a failure. If you get there, it only lasts that long. So what are we really chasing? And that Super Bowl 13 taught me a lot, and I learned a tremendous amount. I'm glad we won, but that wasn't the most important thing.